Mary had a little lamb.
We believe that all men are created
equal to the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Overnight, a deadly rampage at Michigan State University.
Run!
Prompting an hours-long campus lockdown.
Reports of shots fired. Send out an additional alert. Continue shelter in place.
The first calls coming in around 8:18 p.m. Within minutes, hundreds of officers swarming Berkey Hall, where authorities say 2 people were killed. The suspected gunman fled to the nearby Student Union building, where police say another person died.
This truly has been a nightmare that we are living tonight.
Police later releasing these surveillance photos of the suspected gunman. Then just after midnight in the nearby city of Lansing, with police closing in, the fleeing shooter took his own life.
Shots fired 2349. Subject down.
Suspect has died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
The gunman's motives remain unclear, but overnight, police describing him as a 43-year-old man with no apparent ties to the school.
He's not a student, faculty, staff, and we have no idea why he came to campus to do this tonight.
Last night's deadly campus shooting taking place just one day before the 5th anniversary of the Parkland School massacre in Florida that left 17 dead. And less than 100 miles away from Oxford High School, where 4 students were killed in 2021. One mother telling our NBC affiliate WDIV her daughter, who survived the Oxford attack, was forced to shelter in place last night at Michigan State.
It was like reliving Oxford. It was absolutely, unbelievably terrifying.
Other MSU students left terrified.
Never did I think this would happen. Excuse me.
This morning, as investigators work to piece together the nation's latest mass shooting, another community forced to mourn the senseless loss of life while calling for an end to the violence that never seems to come.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I mean, this is the 5-year anniversary of Parkland, of the Parkland shooting, of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. I mean, honestly, this is the country that we've made. This is the environment in which we toil. This is what we're okay with, and that's pretty much all there is to say about it. I mean, what else is there to say? People love their guns more than they love our children. Their children. That's it. That's how it is. That's America. And it's a uniquely American problem. There's no question other countries have guns. There's no question other countries have video games. There's no question other countries have rap music, and other countries have, violent movies, and other countries have mental illness, and other countries, it's there. But the only thing that is unique to America is the lax control over who can get a semi-automatic weapon with a high-capacity magazine, or who can get a semi-automatic pistol, or who can, get caught being a felon with a gun, plead to a misdemeanor, do a little probation, and then get a gun at a pawn shop, which is what the case here is. I mean, there are people who are ready to call me up right now and go, but Cupid's an active shooter, ha ha. Yeah, he is. Ban arrows. That's my position. No, I mean, Cupid is an active shooter. There's no doubt about it. But, here it is. It's Tuesday. So there was a mass shooting. It's Tuesday. So we have, 3 dead, 5 needing surgery, and 1 shooter who took his own life. This is America. This is who we are. This is what we say. This is how, we want to live. If it's not how you want to live, if it's not, what you think this country is about, then do something. Stop voting for, lunatic, fringy people who literally just had a debate in Congress. They just had a debate in Congress. I'm going to jog your memory here, right? They just had a debate in Congress. You've got, what's his face? The guy that owns the gun stores running around, Andy Clyde, running around with a semi-automatic weapon pin, saying, hey, if you don't have a semi-automatic weapon pin, come to my office. I've got plenty more. I'll give you a semi-automatic weapon pin. Wearing them. And ahead of the State of the Union, they had a freaking debate about, carrying, guns to the committee rooms. And they won. The Republicans, they're the majority now. So they won. They had this big-ass debate about whether or not you wanted to see more guns on Capitol Hill or less guns on Capitol Hill. They wanted more guns. They wanted more guns. They wanted them in the committee rooms. They want them, right now, a Congress member can have a gun in their office, right? That wasn't good enough for them. They wanted to bring their guns to the committee, meetings. They wanted to bring their guns everywhere that they could. So they took a vote and they said, yeah, okay, we win. And so now, they can bring. This is who they are. This is what they do. This is, their vision for America. It is. I mean, that's kind of it. See,
I'm Congressman Andrew Clyde from Georgia's 9th District. I hear that this little pin I've been giving out on the House floor has been triggering some of my Democrat colleagues. Well, I give it out to remind people of the Second Amendment of the Constitution and how important it is in preserving our liberties. If I missed you on the House floor, please stop by my office in Canton. I have plenty more to give out.
I mean, this is where they are on respect for life. Okay, this is who they are. This is what they are. And Andy Clyde obviously owns a gun shop, and so he's worth about $25 million because he sells guns and weapons and ammo, right? And nothing's going to stop him. Nothing's going to change his mind. I mean, he thinks that the Second Amendment didn't call for a well-regulated militia being necessary, the right of the people to, No, he thinks that Cletus in his double wide is the reason for the Second Amendment. He thinks that this guy here who went nuts and, didn't have anything to do with this university. But, all right, what do you think of this? What do you think of these solutions? What do you think of this one? So, first of all, I have to explain to you that Michigan is now run by moms. Yay. Michigan has Gretchen Whitmer as the governor. Michigan has Dana Nessel as the attorney general. Okay, and Dana Nessel, she actually said today, my God, I had to send my kids to college. And I was not cool with it. And I just thought, will they make it through the 4 years? Will they make it through without being, exposed to gun violence? And she said, I made it to the sophomore year. And the answer was no, they will not make it all the way through. And she said, and I'm the chief law enforcement officer in this here state. How do I explain this to my children? Well, the answer is I don't have any laws to enforce. Okay, I don't. You used to have a gun license in Michigan until 2012, I think, and then they did away with the licensing provision. So they'd like to bring that back. Okay. They'd like to go back to the pre-2012 banning the licensing requirement days. They would like a 7-day waiting period. They would like background checks universally. They would like for parents to be able to red flag their own children. This is interesting. You may not remember when they talk about Oxford and the Oxford school shooting that happened about a year ago. Maybe this will refresh. The Crumbleys. Do you remember the Crumbleys? Ethan Crumbley. Ethan Crumbley was a kid who blamed his parents for, not making him, but for allowing him to go into a school in Oxford. Michigan, and shoot up the school because he said his parents knew he was mentally ill. His parents didn't care that he was mentally ill. His parents didn't do anything to get him mental health care, and his parents made a gun available to him. So now his parents are facing a manslaughter charge, each of them, the Crumbleys, right? So what if we had, I don't know, this is interesting to me. I just thought of it because I was reading the story about this shooter, and this shooter was known to all his neighbors to be, quote, a hellraiser. This guy was 43 years old. He's not a kid. And this guy used to open the back door of his 960-square-foot house where he lived with his daddy, who knew that he needed to be separated from guns. So, Dad might have availed himself of a red flag law, had there been one, and told law enforcement. But let's say Dad didn't want to be the one. Let's say Dad, just didn't want to go, didn't want to, bother, didn't want to, whatever, didn't want to piss his kid off. He was afraid of his own kid, 66-year-old dad, 43-year-old kid, whatever. How about to get the license, you have to go, a real background check where you go and you ask neighbors, is this person stable? Should this person have a gun?
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
As the representative of Oxford, Michigan, I cannot believe that I am here again doing this 15 months later. And I am filled with rage that we have to have another press conference to talk about our children being killed in their schools. And I would say that you either care about protecting kids or you don't. You either care about having an open, honest conversation about what is going on in our society or you don't. But please don't tell me you care about the safety of children if you're not willing to have a conversation about keeping them safe in a place that should be a sanctuary. Now, the Spartan community is incredibly connected and proud. We've already seen people come together. But for me, the most haunting picture of last night was watching the cameras pan through the crowds and seeing a young person wearing an Oxford Strong sweatshirt. The sweatshirts that were handed out after those kids lived through a school shooting 15 months ago. And we have children in Michigan who are living through their second school shooting in under a year and a half. If this is not a wake-up call to do something, I don't know what is. In the meantime, I feel confident that our law enforcement is doing everything that they can to understand the situation. I'm thrilled that federal law enforcement is on scene, bringing their resources to the fight. We're not going to rest until we understand. But I think the fact that we're having this conference so quickly after another mass shooting in our state should be a statement in and of itself.
You know, but it's a college shooting, right? At least it's a college shooting. It wasn't an elementary school, and that's something, isn't it? No, it isn't. Okay, so, you know, I mean, obviously people have made a choice, and the choice is this hunk of metal and the little bullets that go in it over, you know, living, breathing children who obviously, you know, survived a school shooting and long enough to take their SATs, get admitted to Michigan State, go there, and then have their second school shooting, which all but 3 survived. So, you know, the right wing's going to make that argument. But only 3, you know, I mean, you're talking about a campus of 50,000 kids, 50,000 and 3 died. So what? So what? It's 3 kids. And I'm like, yeah, but they did their homework and they stayed, you know, they didn't go out and they stayed in and they studied and they made it to, you know, a good school. And, you know, yeah, but, you know, 50,000 of them didn't. You know that's coming. You know that's their argument. You know that's what they're going to say because they're in love with weapons. They're in love with them. They think that the Second Amendment did not, you know, call for a well-regulated militia if necessary to preserve a free state from, you know, the federal government. That's what the Second Amendment was about. That you should have a state militia, which we have. It's called the National Guard, okay? But that's what the Second Amendment was about. And they have decided that, no, the Second Amendment is about giving, Cletus and bikers, you know, who want to run methamphetamine, okay, through Kentucky, the right to, be armed while they're doing it. And that's what they think. And there's nothing that's going to get them off of that position. There's no language you can show them because it's in black and white, you know. It is a provisional amendment, the Second Amendment. It's not a, it's not a mystery that it's saying, hey, listen, if you need a well-regulated militia, how do I know that? Because it says being necessary. So if you need a militia, let it be a well-regulated one. Let it have musters. You know, let it meet. Let it. The way that the ammunition is stored is you want your little pellets in little bags, okay? And you have to have them inspected for the purpose of being in a well-regulated militia. You need regulations. So we're going to regulate everything, including, how you carry the ammunition and when we can inspect it and when you show up for muster and, what's involved in that. And then once you have that, then there is no right of the people to keep and bear arms. See, because it's a provisional. But anyway, there is nothing that I can say. There is nothing you can say. There is nothing anybody can say to people who are gun nuts. There is nothing that you could say. I mean, legitimate gun owners are disgusted with this. People who have guns in their houses for hunting or gun. I don't think they have a problem with storing their guns safely. I just don't. I really don't. And that's another aspect of this. You know, we need some safe storage rules. Hello. But I think, you know, that truly the background checks, obviously we need them, but I want real ones. I want legit ones. I want the kind that you have to get when you get a security clearance in the United States. Just so you know, if you were ever in the military and you ever had a security clearance for any damn thing, now I'm not talking about, you know, anything beyond a need to know. Just in your wheelhouse, there were certain parts of your job that, you know, used, you know, classified types of equipment or classified types of ammunition or a classified radar system. You know, not everything is, you know, a spycraft. Some things are just classified because we want the technology kept close to the vest, right? But if you ever had to get a security clearance, whether it was for civilian, you know, law enforcement or the FBI, you know, something like that, or military, you know that they go and talk to your neighbors. They go and talk to your neighbors before they can trust you with information, which is the coin of the realm, but not with weaponry. Not with the weaponry. Okay, any lunatic, fringy weirdo can go buy a semi-automatic pistol, can go buy a long gun, can go buy a magazine that'll hold 100. Just have at it. Help yourself. It's a buffet of violence. Manja, everybody. Yeah, and the reason why it came to my mind is because I'm watching, you know. They're reporting on this shooter, this last shooter, 43-year-old man, not a kid, okay? So you can't say, oh, it was video games, or oh, it was mental illness, or his parents sucked. No, this is a 43-year-old man, okay, who was not associated with this university in any way, shape, or form, had no connection to it. Apparently his mother died. So far, this is the story. His mother died, and he was raging. He was so angry. I don't know, you know, what the story is going to end up being, but this is the one that we have right now, and this is the one that put this idea in my head. So his mother died. Now, he left a note. I don't know what the hell the note says, but something about wiping out Lansing. You know, this is anger, you know, exponential anger. But this guy was known to his neighbors and his dad to be a guy who loved guns entirely too much and shouldn't have them. They called him a real hellraiser. They said he would open the back door of his little house and he would shoot out the door. And everybody in the neighborhood knew this guy was bat crap. They knew he had anger issues. They knew. Now, I'm sure there's somebody in your neighborhood that you know that fits that bill. I know there's one in my neighborhood. We all tell each other, don't go near him. Just don't go near him. You know, he's a psycho. Everybody knows. If there was a real background check done on him, and they came to me and they said, should, you know, neighbor X have, I would say, are you freaking kidding me? He shouldn't have a golf club, okay? He shouldn't have a chainsaw, this guy. You want to give him bullets and ammo and a lot? No.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
We're all broken by an all too familiar feeling. Another place that is supposed to be about community and togetherness, shattered by bullets and bloodshed. We know this is a uniquely American problem.
It is.
Today is the 5th anniversary of the Parkland shooting. We're mere weeks past the Lunar New Year shooting at a dance hall.
Oh my God.
And a few months past a shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde. And looking back at a year marked by shootings at grocery stores, parades, and so many other ordinary, everyday situations, we cannot keep living like this. Our children are scared to go to school. People feel unsafe in their houses of worship or local stores. Too many of us scan rooms for exits when we enter them. And many of us have gone through the grim exercise of figuring out who our last call would be to.
Okay.
Last night, a lot of kids on this campus made those calls. They worried for their lives and for their friends, for their fellow Spartans.
Parents across Michigan were on pins and needles, calling their kids to tell them that they love them. As parents, we tell our kids it's going to be okay. We say that all the time. But the truth is, words are not good enough. We must act, and we will.
I mean, the hopeful thing I can tell you, Michiganders, Spartans, people, is that Michigan is now run by Democrats. Gretchen Whitmer and, Dana Nessel. And you even have a Democratic Secretary of State there, right? You have Joycelyn Benson. The state is in Democratic hands. The legislature in Michigan is also in Democratic majority legislature. So I fully expect that you will see movement in Michigan toward background checks, towards some sort of safe storage framework, some sort of licensing requirement to go back to pre-2012 licensing requirements, maybe even include a 7-day waiting period, which we know lowers the number of suicides that happen by gun, which is another concern, a bigger concern actually, than mass shootings. Suicides are more common than mass shootings. And so if you give a damn about preventing people from taking their own lives, well, then you would say a 7-day waiting period is a really good idea. It also is a cooling off period for people who are buying a gun in the heat of the moment, meaning they're raging and they intend to use it in a rage fest. Okay, so a 7-day waiting period. I mean, these are ideas. I am firmly about the background check. I think that a person who shouldn't have a gun or a semi-automatic weapon, at least, right? A person who shouldn't have a large capacity magazine, who shouldn't be able to, feed round after round after round into a weapon. I think that their personality is pretty well known by their neighbors. I do. I think that person, sort of distinguishes themselves in the neighborhood as being somebody who shouldn't be allowed to have this kind of, firepower. And so I would like to put that on the table as well. Real background checks, meaningful background checks that actually check somebody's background with people who are in a position to know that person's background. Just saying. I don't know that they'll go that far in Michigan. I really don't. I'm not sure. But I can tell you that they will pass something. Then the next thing is going to be, do the courts uphold it? See, that's another problem that we have now. Okay, so now not only do we have, Republican legislatures all over the place that are telling, Cletus over there that he has some Second Amendment right to own, Uzis or shoulder-fired propelled grenade launchers, to take down the balloons now, Swear, this was a conversation I actually heard somebody have. Well, now, we need a bazooka because we got to take them down. They're coming to us. What am I supposed to do? Just sit there? I'm supposed to just sit there? I'm not supposed to take a shot? Oh, yeah. But that's why I'm saying real background checks would be awesome. But you know that the courts are going to insert themselves. As soon as Michigan passes some gun law, you want to know something that's very ironic? So Dianne Feinstein, who's 89 years old now, don't diminish her. She has had quite the career, okay? She was mayor of San Francisco to begin with. She's the one who I believe found Harvey Milk's body. Somebody will tell me if I'm if I got that wrong. But I think Dianne Feinstein was the actual human being that found Harvey Milk, who was killed because he was gay. I think she was the one that discovered his body. So here's a woman that's worked her entire life for gay rights. Here's a woman who, worked her entire life for a diminishing gun violence, right? Dianne Feinstein is probably not the single reason, but she's probably the reason that we had the assault weapons ban in 1994 that was allowed to expire 10 years later, 2004. During that time, we had less gun violence. Just did. Just saying, could be, an awesome coincidence or not. But she's retiring today. I wonder if she saw this story. I wonder if she did. And she said, I'm 89. I'm tired. I should have retired when I was 65 like normal people. I've been working another 25 years. We're never going to get any kind of meaningful, assault weapons ban in this here country with this Supreme Court. I can't wait it out anymore. I'm retiring. I don't know. I have no idea if that was part of her thinking. But yes, she is 89 years old. It didn't have to be part of her thinking because she's 89 years old. And if she ran again, she would be 95 when her term ended. So, or 96, depending on when her birthday actually occurs. So I don't know. But, honestly, this is ironic to me. It's like the height of irony. The woman that actually fought and passed and got an assault weapons ban in America is retiring on the day that we had another mass shooting. Just saying. Jahari in Michigan. Oh, hi.
Hey.
Hey,
how are you?
sorry. So sorry.
Yeah. I am a University of Michigan Wolverine living in Lansing. I grew up in this town and born and raised, went to high school here, and I can tell you we're all feeling it. I'm a Spartan today.
Yeah.
Anybody that lives in Lansing has been through that campus. They know someone that works on that campus.
It's gigantic.
Or has gone to school on that campus. My parents went there. They met there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, one of my best friends, she's a booster for Spartan Athletics. I mean, we're all feeling it. And it's just really, really sad.
It's inexcusable. It's something we could actually stop and something we could at least get preventative about. But, people love their guns more than they love their children, and that is how America rolls. This is where we are, and it's really freaky sad, like bizarre.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, here's the Attorney General of Michigan, Dana Nessel.
I know that we're going to be able to create new laws in Michigan that I look forward to having the opportunity to enforce, to make certain that there are a lot of people who have access to weapons or can easily access weapons, that we can either take those weapons away from those individuals or prevent them from obtaining those weapons in the first place. So there are things that we can do that will make some difference. But you know what I fear is I fear the courts right now. Right. I see some of the rulings in federal courts that I think will significantly diminish the ability of states like mine to pass and to have meaningful legislation to prevent gun violence-related crimes. And certainly Congress has done us virtually no favors at all. So it is up to the states, but of course we know it's fluid. Oftentimes it's easy to bring guns across state borders. This is a national problem, and we need a national solution. But that's not going to stop us in Michigan from trying to do everything we can to prevent tragedies like these from occurring.
So she's actually saying, listen, the state of Michigan is going to act. I know that we will, and I look forward to having those laws to enforce, right? I do. But I'm really looking at the large picture here, and the large picture here are the federal freaking courts. Okay, they're saying things like New York had a law that said that you couldn't, conceal carry in New York. Oh, no, they said the Supreme Court said, screw that. Everybody in New York can have a gun. Everybody in New York can have a gun. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like they want us killing each other. They want us very busy defending ourselves from flying bullets or guys hanging out of windows in Las Vegas as you go to a concert, or sending your kid to school and A, your child is afraid to go to school, and B, you don't know if your kid is going to come home from school. That is the condition, the American condition, that this Supreme Court is all for. That should be normal. That should be your daily life. That should be, the way that the United States feels and operates. Seriously, I've never seen anything like this court. This court is really corrupt. This is what happens when you get Donald Trump putting 3 Supreme Court justices on a court with 9 justices total. This is what it looks like. This is what you get, okay? And obviously they have no rules of the road. They have no ethics, components to their service. None. Other federal courts do. Other federal judges do. But not the Supreme Court. There's no rules at all. Their wives can actually, go work for, legal firms or for a headhunter, like an employment agency, and place people that are going to have to argue in front of your husband in a position in a law firm to do so. I mean, the whole thing is so, you want to talk about a rigged system. Holy crap. And you got Clarence's wife inserting herself into the insurrection of the United States of America. And, there's nothing you can do about it because there's no rules of the road. There's no ethics at all. And every time a state creates its own set of rules to own a gun, like New York has had rules about gun ownership for, 50 years, 100 years, some crazy amount of time like that. And the Supreme Court said, no. Everybody in New York. So really, like down there on, in the middle of a drunk New Year's Eve, Times Square, you can, well, maybe not there, but every other place. I mean, they're just dying to see us die. Apparently, is what it is. And now you have the Republican Party in the federal, House, right, in the House of the United States of America, and they don't want to spend money on mental health care for anybody, let alone kids. They voted no. There was a bill on the floor to, fund schools' mental health programs, and they were a no. They were a firm no on that. So what you end up with is kids advising kids how to get through school shootings, how to deal with the trauma of a school shooting or two. No resources in school, none whatsoever. Less mental health and more guns. Yay, everybody, yay. You do understand that in America, the leading cause of violence for kids is guns. It's gun violence. That is the lead. But, so why don't we just, instead of this Valentine's Day thing, we already have the V. The V is for violence, and just, have a Hallmark card, for that. Enjoy the violence, open up the card, thoughts and prayers. Just get it over with and stop pretending that you give a rat's ass about the safety of our kids, or you give a damn about college kids, or you give a damn about concert goers, or people who go to a mosque, or people who go to a synagogue, or people who go to church, for that matter. Okay? You don't give a damn about anything. You don't care about movie theaters. You don't care about bowling alleys. You don't care about grocery stores. You don't care about, white supremacists. You don't care about anything at all. Nothing at all. Because no matter what I say, you're going to call me and you're going to go, Chicago. You know that. And I know that. So don't waste my time. Don't waste yours. So we need a holiday, is what I'm saying. We need a Hallmark holiday, a thoughts and prayers holiday. And since the V is already in Valentine's Day, right, and the V could be for violence, and everything keeps happening on Valentine's Day, right? I mean, Parkland happened on Valentine's Day. This happened last night, Valentine's Day Eve. I mean, you could just scooch it in there. You can make it count, can't you? Yeah. And just, surrender to it. Just say, America is a violent-ass country, and, the thing to do now is to escalate. The thing to do now is to get a gun. That's it. That's all you can do. Go out and get one. Get 2. One for the car, one for the house, one for the office. 3. Get 3.
I mean, it's Valentine's Day. Matching Glocks or I don't know.
There you go. Glocks. I want an AR. If I'm going to have one, I'm going to strap that baby on. I'm going to wear it like a crossbody bag. I'm going to accessorize the hell.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm going to make it, part of my outfit, obviously, 72 degrees or less, I get to wear boots. And, if a crossbody is appropriate for the outfit, then the crossbody is going to be an AR. Just do it. It's Florida. Brian in Illinois.
Hi, Randy.
Hey.
Hey, so the same people that want no restrictions on guns have no problem showing you pictures of aborted fetuses. Why does all the media coverage end at the muzzle.
Oh, I see. You want the media to show the result? Is that where you're going?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
what do you think?
I mean, it wouldn't even appall anybody anymore. You know what I mean? It's just people are so open to it.
I don't know about that. I'm not open to it.
All right. Then why are you suggesting it? What he's saying, I think, is that we should show the result of the gun violence. That we should show, what actually happens. I will say the closest I've ever seen to that is, and you've probably seen it. Have you ever seen the experiment that ballistics people, experts do to show you the difference between a regular, like a Glock bullet, and a semi-automatic weapon? Like the velocity and the speed of the bullet is so uniquely exponentially greater than like a pistol, that it shreds the organs. Like it doesn't just pierce an organ, which is what we're used to. This actually shreds the organ, so that there is no rebuilding the organ. There's no removing the bullet from, let's say the lung, because the lung is just pulverized. There's nothing there. Do you know? I mean, it's just. And so the closest I've ever seen to a demonstration of that is they do it into like jelly.
It's that body-like gel mass, and sometimes it's got the veins kind of simulating where some of the major arteries would be, things like that. But yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's really realistic.
Yeah, and that's as close as we've ever gotten to looking at the result of a semi-automatic bullet piercing a body. Now, I know he's saying, why does it end at the muzzle? Why don't you show the result? And then when I ask him if I say people are probably, so desensitized to violence at this point that, it wouldn't even move them. It wouldn't even make them say, oh, I really ought to rethink. I just don't think it would, And the people who would be offended, like you and me, which you admitted, and I'm telling you right now, it would be vile for me to see something like that on the TV or any place, especially having to do with a child. I mean, it's just so disgusting. We would be repelled and repulsed, but we already are. So who is this for? You know what I'm saying? If dead kids in an elementary school setting, like in Uvalde where no one came, wasn't enough, I don't know.
Clear for donate.
Mary had a little lamb.
We believe that all men are created
equal
to the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I can't believe that as a parent in the United States of America, you can't move your child into college without seriously having to wonder whether or not they're going to make it through the next 4 years before they graduate without being a victim of a mass shooting. And that was a concern I had when I moved my kids into school a year and a half ago. And I couldn't even make it through their sophomore year without an incident like this happening. I'm the top law enforcement official in this state, and I can prevent a tragedy like this from happening. What do any of us have? What hope do we have as parents if we don't have legislators who are willing to actually do something to protect our children? We have to start loving our kids more than we love our guns.
Good luck with that, Dana Nessel. Good luck with that, honey. This is America. I don't see how that happens. Not with the courts that we have right now. Not with the Supreme Court that we have right now. Not with the the crazy population that we have right now. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to take before Gen Z actually becomes the holder of real power. But whenever that day comes, fingers crossed, everybody. Thoughts and prayers in the meantime. Fingers crossed. You know what I was reading this morning? This is unbelievable. Do you know that nearly 1/3 of teenage girls say they have seriously considered suicide? Do you know that 57% of our kids, 57% reported feeling, quote, persistently sad or hopeless? What a world we've given them. Congratulations. Way to go. Yeah, we have given our kids a feeling of persistent sadness and hopelessness. I honestly don't know what republicanism, what conservatism had in mind for our kids, but this is what it produced. This is it. This is where it got us. You know, the last time that we had a hopeful population, Obama was president. You know, the record low was from 57% of our kids. The record low, the CDC started keeping, biennial surveys. And the record low was 13% of our kids felt hopeless and sad. Only 13%, but that was back in 2009. That was back in 2009. We haven't, been able to recreate that environment since then. You know, it's unbelievable. And every time we have a vote about whether or not we want to, do mental health, in schools, Republicans are almost to a person a no. Almost to a person. It's just honestly, it's an amazing thing. They just really don't have any interest in our lives. They have no interest in our children's lives. They have no interest in our lives. They have no interest. And here you do have Joe Biden, whose economy, by the way, is succeeding beyond the wildest, predictions. Remember, a recession was coming. A recession was coming. A recession was coming. We didn't have a recession. We still have a little bit of inflation left, but wages for the bottom 50% of this country have gone up exponentially, like more than inflation, like 12% wage increase for the bottom income earners in this country. And inflation right now is about 6%, which is high. It is, no doubt about it. It's supposed to be about 2%. But you have people who are doing better than the pace of inflation, meaning they're keeping up with, if not, doing better than, they would have had we not had a Biden economy. So, and we haven't even seen the investment yet, really. The CHIPS and Science Act, the infrastructure building, all of these things are going to lead to, more jobs that require less, college degree types and more, people just to get trained in making microchips or get trained in, running a microchip factory or, stuff like. And it's all good. It's all good. And you would think that we could instill a hopeful ideal, a hopeful vision of the future for the for the kids, for the children. No, because they won't make it alive out of, school. They won't make it. And the amazing thing. So, I haven't talked about this earthquake. You know why? Because it's too depressing. It's just so dank. It's so dark. It's so bad. Now, Turkey, I've been to Turkey, but I've only been to, Istanbul. I've only been to a big city, and that's in the northwest portion of Turkey. I've never been to, the southern part of Turkey near Syria. But I will say, for the most part, my impression of Turkey is it's a very modern country, believe it or not, with bad government. But it's a modern country, and so, yes, you expected that if an earthquake hit, there would be massive buildings, modern buildings coming down, which happened. And, I think the amount of dead people is like 36,000. 36,000 people. However, right over the border in Syria, nobody came to get them. Do you know what I'm saying? Nobody came to get them. There weren't any rescues. It was that same group, the white helmets, that carry dead bodies in war, that try and rescue people in war. Those were the only people that were there to service people who were the victims of a massive earthquake in Syria. So that reminded me so much of Uvalde. I swear to God. Because you'll remember in Uvalde, in the elementary school there in Robb Elementary, nobody went. Nobody came to help those kids. They just stood in the hallway. Remember? With their very, they're very serious-looking long guns, and their gear, and their walkies, and their, armaments, and their vests, and their helmets, and all. But they just didn't want to go into the classroom. They just didn't want to, go in toward what they heard was live fire against 6-year-olds. They couldn't be moved by that to go do their jobs. See what I mean? So when I looked at Syria and I saw nobody coming to rescue them, I thought, well, Texas has you beat. Texas set the tone there. Yeah. Nobody came for them. Nobody would go in. Nobody would rescue them. Nobody would. Even though, and this is back to the last callers, like maybe if people could see it. Well, these police officers in Uvalde, they heard it. And the dispatcher, the 911 dispatcher, heard this little girl, this little tiny girl with this little tiny girl voice calling them. Please, please come, please. And gunfire. And somehow they said no. Not doing it. Not going in. That's America. That's not Syria. That's America. You need to own this. You need to know this. And you need to be cool with it for the next, 20 years or so until Gen Z, who is suffering with this kind of trauma, right? Who has never been to school 1 year in their entire life without live fire drills. Seriously, they have never, ever been through a year of school without a live fire drill. And it's going to take until they're in control, until they're in charge, before, we get a Supreme Court that actually says, yes, we're coming to help you. No, until then, you're going to have places like Florida where the Ron death sentence here is, looking at the 5th anniversary of Parkland. Today is the 5th anniversary. 17 kids were killed. 17. And instead of saying, yeah, we really need to do something about, stopping the wrong people from getting access to weapons or, do background checks, real ones, and make sure that, these kids aren't coming, to the pawn shop or they're not getting their guns at a gun store on their 18th birthday wanting to go, Instead, Ron DeSantis, who is so power hungry, who wants to appeal to the tiny little base that would vote for him in a primary, is saying, let's do permitless carry in Florida. As a response, let's all have guns.
Watched it on TV.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
This seems like a lifetime ago.
Brandon now works at the dance studio started by his grandparents. And 2 weeks ago, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, he heard the studio door close, and he saw a man standing there pointing a semi-automatic pistol at him. He thought he was going to die, but he thought about the people inside. And in that instant, he found the courage to act and wrestled a semi-automatic pistol away from the gunman who had already killed 11 people in another dance studio. 11. He saved lives. It's time we do the same. Ban assault weapons now. Ban them now. Once and for all.
Look at Miss Belbert there. Very unhappy. Very unhappy.
I led the fight to do that in 1994.
Yep.
And in 10 years, that ban was law and mass shootings went down.
Yep.
After we let it expire in the Republican administration, mass shootings tripled. Let's finish the job and ban these assault weapons.
Not going to happen. You saw Miss Belbert there just shaking her head. Go, no, I love them. I love those weapons. I love them. I love them more than I love my children. In fact, I give them to my children to play with. I give them to play with them because they're so lovable. They're so beautiful. They're so metallic and stuff. I mean, it's a sick freaking thing that, we're involved in. But, it's not going to stop with us. I mean, it's just, we're not going to stop it. Not in my lifetime. It's not going to stop. So, get used to, the blood and the guts and the bullets in there. Because now, they want Uzis. They want bazookas now. They want, rocket-propelled, shoulder-fired grenade launchers now to shoot at the balloons. I mean, they're getting ready. And by them, I mean like this tiny, tiny little minority of us. Yeah, seriously. Like I've always told you that we're always, always, always going to have 30% of our population that is just bat crap crazy. It is just the American way. It is just the way America unfolds. It's the way that America presents as 70% sane and 30% just god awfully nuts. Just really, I mean, whether they're alcoholic or drug addled or just mentally, in need of help that they don't get. I don't know. But, they're willing to believe conspiracy theories and the worst of people and that civil war is necessary and, don't tread on me, except I get to tell you what you can do with your body, what you can't do with your body. Don't tread on me, except I get to kill you and take your life away. But I'm pro-life. And, craziness. Really, really, stuff that just is so incongruous. Stuff that makes no sense to anybody who, actually looks at what's being said. And they go, wait. You're pro-life, but you're wearing a semi-automatic weapon pin? Really? That's you? Yeah, that's you. But I mean, we're always going to have this minority, and so, we're about to have another election cycle. You understand that, right? I mean, we're in a lull right now. People are just, starting to file on in and file their papers and file their candidacies now, right? And so today, I'm supposed to be, stopping the presses to give you the news that Nikki Haley, everybody, has thrown her hat in the presidential ring for the Republican nomination. Nikki Haley, governor of South Carolina and Donald Trump's UN ambassador. Now, I think she's got a 3-minute commercial. I'm not going to play it. I watched it a couple times to see if what she was saying was what she was saying, because I was listening to it going, what? Wait, what? Yeah. So she's anti-woke, just so you know. Okay, she's like, everything woke is bad. But I am, a brown woman. I'm a brown woman of color. I'm neither black. She actually says this. Don't bitch at me. She actually says, I'm from South Carolina, where the highway was, dividing us into the black neighborhood and the white neighborhood. But I'm from Indian heritage, so I'm neither black nor white. Okay. And so she's proudly a woman of color, yay you. And then in the next breath, she's trashing everything woke. And woke means black, right? Woke means things that are of, color. Woke means, Cuban American history, right? That's what, by the way, one of those kids that was interviewed for, the news, who was who was on campus last night when this gunman came. She said she was in her Cuban history class. She was in Cuban history class. So I'm sitting there going, oh my God. All right, so you could have Cuban history in Michigan as a class, a college class. You could have European history as a college class at Michigan University, Michigan State. You could have that. You could have Mexican American history at the same college, but you can't have African American history. That's woke. Okay. Just to put it in context. So I'm listening to her announce her candidacy. And then later in the day today, they were saying, oh, Tim Scott's going to do some stuff in Iowa, and he's going to South Carolina, and he's doing some, feel-abouts. Okay, he's doing some, inquiries into whether or not he could, get a crowd in any of these presidential places, right? Tim Scott from South Carolina. I find this fascinating. Nikki Haley from South Carolina, Tim Scott from South Carolina. She's going to position herself as, I'm not black. I'm somewhere in the middle, but Tim Scott's going to position himself as, I am black, but black history is still woke. Good luck with that. And then Mike Pence is obviously going to run for president. But see, Mike Pence is in a very unique position in that. Now, these are all Trumpers, right? These are all maggots. But Mike Pence is the ultimate maggot, right? He was the vice president of the United States under Donald Trump's presidency, and he is wanted for a deposition. He is wanted for testimony. The Department of Justice wants to talk to Mike Pence about things only Mike Pence could know about the Insurrection Day, about whether or not Donald Trump was working with insurrectionists, whether or not he was serious about, a Proud Boy, stand back, stand by. And only Mike Pence is properly situated to know the answers to these questions. So, when the January 6th committee, the House committee, subpoenaed Mike Pence to appear, he defied the subpoena, and now he wants to be the president of the United States, which is good. It's good because the president of the United States also doesn't have to obey the law. The president of the United States, make no mistake about it, we learned this the hard way, is above the law. You can't indict a sitting president. You can't charge a sitting president. You can't command a president by virtue of subpoena or any court order at all to show up anywhere, anytime, any place for anything. And yes, the president of the United States could kill you if he wanted to on Fifth Avenue, and nothing would happen to him. So let's just settle that. And Mike Pence would like to be that person. And he proved it by defying a congressional subpoena to testify. So now the Department of Justice is subpoenaing him to testify under oath, which is the Department of Justice. It's the big fish. It's the big kahuna. It's law enforcement. It's the top of the food chain of law enforcement. And he's saying, I have a privilege. I'm exerting my privilege.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Mike Pence is expected to fight a subpoena that he recently got from the special counsel who is investigating former President Trump's efforts to overturn the election and what he did surrounding January 6th, leading up to it, on that day, after that day. Mike Pence is going to fight the subpoena, we are told by two sources familiar with the situation, based on the grounds that he was president of the Senate at the time, and therefore they believe was part of the legislative branch, and therefore can argue that he is shielded from the subpoena that he got from Jack Smith. Jack Smith, as you know, is the special counsel who's investigating not only the classified documents that Trump took with him to Mar-a-Lago, but also the efforts around January 6th. This is notable because obviously Mike Pence is one of the people when it comes to that January 6th investigation who had these one-on-one conversations that we talked about last week with Trump. And so if he did speak to them, that is what they want to know.
He's president of the Senate. Okay, so executive privilege didn't work for him. Why? Because you only have one president at a time, and the president of the United States is the only person on the planet, on the entire planet, yes, that has executive privilege in the United States. Just one person, and that would be Joe Biden, not Donald Trump. So Mike Pence understood he could not say that he was going to fight the subpoena because of executive privilege that he has, because he doesn't. So now he's going to play the Lindsey Graham game. It didn't work for Lindsey. Lindsey Graham tried to say through the speech and debate clause, that is what they're not saying over there, that this is the legislative protection that Mike Pence enjoys. The speech and debate clause, where whatever conversations he was having with Donald Trump was in service of his job as the president of the Senate. What? Really? Yeah, this is what Mike Pence is doing. So let me explain to you why this dog and pony show, which will not succeed. Same way Lindsey Graham did not succeed in exerting the speech and debate clause to keep him from having to testify to the Fulton County grand jury. Remember that? By the way, Thursday is the day that we'll get a partial release from the Fulton County grand jury. The judge in that case has decided to release some of what the jury considered, some of the jury's findings in Fulton County in Fani Willis's case, where we have the president, former, of the United States on the phone, saying, if you could just find me one more vote than Joe Biden had, we'll all be good. Wouldn't that be great? Just rig the election for me. We have that on tape, and still we're only going to get a partial finding from the Fulton County Grand Jury, and it will not include whether or not they found reason to indict anybody or not, and if so, who. No, we won't know that. But let me explain to you why Mike Pence is doing what Lindsey Graham already did without success. Mike Pence wants to be the president. We all know that. Mike Pence is going to be on a stage with, now we know, Nikki Haley and probably Ron DeSantis and Tim Scott, also from South Carolina, Donald Trump, and Mike Pence, okay? Mike Pence wants to show the maggots who he would need to win in a primary. He would need these conspiracy theory, QAnon-loving, Marjorie Taylor Greene voting freaks to vote for him. And the only way he can do that is if he appears to be fighting to protect Donald Trump from being indicted for conspiracy to commit sedition. Seditious conspiracy, insurrection, right? Inciting a violent mob, trying to prevent Congress from doing, a lawful obligation that Congress has by virtue of the Constitution, no less. But that's what Pence is doing. Pence is trying to look, he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. And if you never understood what that meant, this is a perfect example. So Mike Pence is going to flail around and say, well, I don't have to testify because I have this privilege, or, oh, that didn't work. Okay, so I have that privilege. He's just trying to serve up the appearance that he is all about protecting Donald Trump so he doesn't blow off the MAGA voters. Once Donald Trump is indicted, or once Donald Trump is locked up and can't run for president, or once Donald Trump is found guilty of, acting to commit sedition, because it's the one thing you can't do. It's the one damn thing you can't do and still hold public office. We all know you could be a felon now. Everybody, I think you got your brains wrapped around the fact that you can be a felon and be a congressman. You could be a murderer and be a congressman. You could be a murderer and be a senator. You could be, a drug dealer. You could be a drug lord. You could be a kingpin. You could be anything you want to be, and still, any lawless thing that you desire to be, and still hold public office in this here country. You could be a murderer and be president of the United States. Yes, I think we all know that now. I think everybody's clear. You can steal puppies' money. You could steal money from a baby. You could steal candy from a baby's mouth, and you could still be a congressman, senator, president, vice president. Okay, but Mike Pence needs to look like he's protecting Trump. And then when that fails, and it will, because it failed for Lindsey, he'll go testify. And he will testify against Donald Trump and tell everything that he knew that Donald Trump did to conspire to create an insurrection, including asking him to not certify the election. That there, right there, is conspiracy to commit sedition. Asking the vice president not to certify, threatening the vice president. You don't even have to go that far. You don't even have to threaten him, but we know he did. We know he threatened his life. We know that. Because we saw it on the TV, okay? We saw the football, okay? We saw the whole thing. But Mike Pence will go and he will testify because he will have to. And, mommy will make him tell the truth because, she controls him. But he will serve Donald Trump up and clear the path for himself. In his mind, this is what he thinks. He will clear the path for himself. So it's, the best shot he's got, and he's going to take it. There's no question. The only other alternative is for Donald Trump to actually go out and find all these maggots that were loyal to him, like Nikki Haley, who was his UN ambassador, like Mike Pence, like Ron DeSantis, who would not be the governor of Florida, proposing that we all have guns and that we have permitless carry in the state of Florida after Parkland, okay, after this massive year of mass shooting, 67, and it's only February, okay? If they have, 16 candidates on the stage, the more the merrier, then the number of votes you have to win in order to get the nomination gets smaller and smaller and smaller, so that a guy like Donald Trump can do what he did in 2016, get 20%, 22% of the vote, and become the nominee for the Republican Party. And that's all you need to do. Just the nomination, just the primary. That's all you need to do.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, this video, I saw this last night. This was a bunch of Michigan State students, obviously in their dorm, filming out their window. I bleeped it, or Sean bleeped it, but this is what they were seeing.
Oh my God. Acres dining hall. Dude, we don't put something, dude. Holy. Oh my God. You want to get something in front of the door? Bro, yeah.
Hire that guy, whoever that guy was. You want to put something in front of the door? I want that guy. That's the guy I want to hire. That's the guy I want working for me. That guy. Just saying. But this is what college students have to deal with now. This is what they look out their window and see. You used to, see a random guy, touching himself or some such crap, right? You used to see like a random person stealing a bicycle. You saw all those bicycles, right? That's a huge campus. There's 50,000 kids on that campus. It's a mini freaking city, that campus, okay? And they're looking out the window in their city, in their place, okay, where they live, where they toil, where they work, where they study, to be tomorrow's doctors, tomorrow's nurses, tomorrow's lawyers, tomorrow's police officers, tomorrow, whatever. And this is what they see. And only one guy has the sense to say, you want to put something in front of the door? I want that guy. That's the guy. Hire him. But I mean, this is just ridiculous. And now they say, the guy out in Monterey, California, he was in his 60s, and that's not typical. Well, this guy last night was 43. The guy in Las Vegas was in his 50s or his early 60s. I mean, what do you mean it's not the typical guy? Oh, because you want to talk yourself into the fact that it's always like some miscreant kid that gets mommy's weapon or daddy's weapon? No. You can't disabuse yourself of that notion. It's everywhere and all the time and everybody. Somebody gets evil angry, somebody gets raging mad. You're next. That's it. It's America. Brother David.
Unhappy Violence Day, sister.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try to be real clear with this. I'm very tired because on Saturday we got news that not one but two longtime couple that aren't nationally prominent like, say, Larry Kramer was, but two longtime ACT UP warriors passed on Thursday and Friday, one from a massive stroke and the other from having a coronary over shock from her partner dying. And so I'm on the phone tree for 3 days, and I went to bed last night at 7:30. So I missed all this. Mm-hmm. My housemate, however, is a news junkie, and she knows that one of my dearest friends who takes care of his parents in East Lansing is getting his late life MFA in philosophy at MSU. And she said, is David, also named David, was he anywhere near the shooter or the shootings? And I texted her back, what shooter, what shootings? And she texted me, turn on the TV. So I turn it on, and he calls me every day. And I realized I overslept. I didn't get the call. And so I text him, and I get his voicemail. I go to his Facebook page, zip. I send him a text about 2.5 hours ago. He called me back. He left Barkey 15 minutes before it happened.
Oh, my God.
He was parked on the opposite side of the campus, so we heard all the shoots. And he's like, oh, what the F? And the two things that chilled me was as he's walking to his car, he said, because Barkey is the place where the building is right by the bus stop. And he said, he's going to go to East Lansing, because if you go the other direction, you go to a high-income area. He said he's going to go to East Lansing. And he's thinking that while he's going to his car. And, of course, that's where he ended up.
That's where he lived. He was on his way.
Right, that's what I mean. Right, but that's where he was going.
Right.
The second thing is that because by now, their cars are being stopped as they leave the parking lot. He said, was there a perimeter around the school, David? No. I saw cops running willy-nilly carrying assault weapons. And all I could think of, well, what's that going to solve? It's systemic. It's endemic. Enough was too much with Columbine. I'm very grateful to be here with Big Gretch and Dana and Mallory McMorrow. Move up, Mallory, move up. Run for Senate, please. But at the same time, you're absolutely right, sister. We're going to have to wait for the next generation to go, you know what? I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
Now, as to Di-Fi, and I've made my jokes over the years, I moved to California in 78, partly to be a member of the singing group, the Young Americans, but also because Harvey Milk was in the San Francisco City Council. And we all know what happened in October.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering right, she didn't find the bodies, but her office was next to his. She was the last person he talked to. And then the shooting happened. Her aides found them, and she had to identify as the head of city council, Moscone and Milk, and then did the thing, right?
Right.
While I've disagreed with her in policy on a million things, on this one, I never will.
No, I mean, I had an issue with her with the black site prisons and the torture and all that crap, right? Yeah, but you know, I just find it so ironic that she was the person that was able to shepherd through and get past, and Joe Biden too, the president of the United States now, the assault weapons ban. And as soon as it expired, mass shootings tripled, and everybody's sitting around wondering, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do?
What can we do? What can we do?
It just shows you that they don't want to learn. They don't want to know what to do. They like it like this. This is everything for them. This is their wet dream. That you could literally, cross-body an assault weapon and say it's an accessory. This is what they wanted. So
it is exactly what they wanted.
Yeah. So enjoy the trauma, everybody. Enjoy it, because that is what the minority of this country is about.
Sad and true, ruled by the minority, and that has to upend if we're even going to survive to see Generation X take it over, generation whatever it is now. I can't keep track of the alphabet, On a slightly lighter note, how did your Super Bowl go for you?
I had a lot of food and very few people.
Well, then you've got a lot of leftovers, right?
Yeah, a lot. I was cooking for 8 to 10 people, and 4 showed up. So there you go.
Well, I guess it's just unfair.
I know. It was bad. It was bad.
And, I'm so sorry to hear this, but you didn't have a dog in either of the races, right?
I do have a dog, and I ate as much as I could, and my friends, that came, my friends came.
Yeah, right.
Just saying. And they ate as much as they could, I
would have devoured Randy. I would have gained the 10 pounds that I've lost in the last 2 months.
Oh, did you? Oh, congrats.
Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah. It's wonderful. No, but the food was awesome. It was incredible. I mean, it was just so delicious. The things I made, I love them.
Well, I love you always.
Too. Love you too. Stay safe. Be well. Scott in L.A.
Hello, Randy.
Hello.
Nice to talk to you again.
You
following
too.
Brother David.
Hello.
So last night, I'm in the green room at the Comedy Store in L.A., having a great time. My phone starts blowing up. I'm like, not now. It's my niece, and whom I moved into her dorm at Michigan State over the summer.
Oh.
And this was 15 minutes before it's on the news. She said there's a shooter outside my building.
Oh, God.
We're hiding in piles of laundry. The lights are off. We put the kind of like the TV dinner wooden trays against the doorknob. I said, what the heck are you talking about? I started texting my brother, her dad. I haven't heard anything about this. I mean, she was fresh there, right there. And so I start texting her, and the thing that alarmed me was also beautiful, but the calmness of, oh, yeah, I've been learning this since first grade.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's what part of me, she said, look, I mean, it's not a matter of, if we're going to die in a gun thing, it's when. And she said, we live prepared, but I won't live scared. I thought, great, that's great. But that's not great.
No.
They shouldn't be
resigned.
Oh, cool.
resigned to go out in a blaze of gory? Yeah.
No, it's horrifying.
It is horrifying, and this is the world that we've created.
I'm hearing the gossip campus is that he was a football player there years ago. That's what I'm hearing.
Really? 43-year-old guy?
But, I mean, it's great that
he
they're
was a
prepared.
little guy, I'll tell you
they're-
that. He was a little guy.
Well, that's probably he probably never got to play on the field. Now you have to take it out on these kids, right?
Oh, disgusting.
But I think I think people are sick of it. And it took too long, but I think they're sick of it.
Fingers crossed, happy Valentine's Day, but the V is for violence. And wrap your head around it, because that is where we are today.
That normalization he's talking about is exactly what the gun cult wants. They don't want to be bothered every time some kid dies. They want us to just get used to it.
Right. They used to tell me it was too soon for me to talk about. Why every time there was a mass shooting to the next day, I talk about guns. Why? It was too soon. It was too soon. And now it's like, it's too bad. It's too bad.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
About 1,000 people lined up to get into the high school gym in East Palestine.
I'm hoping they'll find some answers. Why don't they clean the creek? I mean, I think they are trying, but...
Inside the gym, what was once described as a town hall looked more like a job fair. Agencies set up tables where residents could privately ask questions. Concerns mounting over the air quality and the drinking water, both of which, according to state and federal agencies, are still safe. But with reports of people getting sick, animals dying, and that smell, there's a certain level of pessimism.
I'm glad Governor DeVine said that he's going to stand by us. I'm glad to hear that. But when you hear the health department saying, drink the water, don't drink the water, drink bottled water, what is it?
In the middle of this meeting, Mayor Trent Conaway addressed the dozens of reporters here.
And I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. And they're going to make it right, and that's it. That's it. I'm done playing games.
He then took over the meeting, opening it up to questions. Many of the same concerns we've heard from the very start. The answers also similar, insisting things are safe, but vowing to continue monitoring.
Do you guys feel like you got any of the answers you came here to get?
It's the same circle.
Notably absent, Norfolk Southern. The railroad operator did not send its representatives, citing safety concerns.
What?
They should be here. Don't be scared. We're a harmless town.
They just want answers.
I talked to a few people just a few moments ago outside here. They felt the same way, that they just didn't get all of those questions answered. They felt as though the answers they are getting are the same ones they've been getting.
Don't be scared now, darling. Don't be scared. I cannot believe that Norfolk Southern, I have to be careful when I say this name, was scared to show up in East Palestine, Ohio. They were scared of the Ohioans. They were scared of Buckeyes. They're scared. You know, this is madness. You understand? This is bizarre that the people of this little tiny town are now viewed as being dangerous by the corporate, titans that are running their rail cars full of hazardous materials, flammables, toxins through their community, won't show up to talk to them about what they are doing to make sure that the air and the water are safe to breathe and drink. They're scared now. Now they're scared. I honestly, this is really bothering me because, I lived in this part of the country for a good solid 2.5 years. I actually went to jail there, okay? I know this place. I understand what it is that people need to hear at this portion of the bomb train. And what they need to hear is reassurances that the water is clean and the air is safe, because these people can't go stay at a hotel. These people can't just go, scurrying away and stay at a Four Seasons. Okay, that is not what can happen when you have livestock or when you have cattle, or when you have, agricultural fields that need tending to, or when you actually have a job that you need to be present for in order to get paid. See, most people don't get paid when there is no, when there are no hours, when the business is closed. Okay, I pay. My little staff here, they know that whether we're here or not, they're getting paid for the whole week. Okay, this is what I do, and
we appreciate it.
Yeah, sort of. You didn't invite me on your vacation.
Oh man, that didn't take long.
You didn't invite me. So this is a good opportunity to tell people Monday and Tuesday the show will not air. People who are on the little staff here, they will get paid by me, even though we will not be on the air because Brett needs a vacation.
Wow. So I don't particularly
Am I lying?
I don't particularly need a vacation. My sister, who is the ultimate coordinator, she has coordinated this family reunion in the Bahamas. It was months and months in advance, and we're very much looking forward to it. I'm seeing a lot of family members in a very cool spot, and I really appreciate you.
Well, I wouldn't know how cool the spot is because you didn't invite me. There's like 40 people are going, okay, and he didn't invite me, which means he doesn't really think of me as family. He doesn't really. He thinks he does, but he doesn't, because when push comes to shove and your back's against the wall and it's time to take a little vacay, with the whole fam in the Bahamas, no less. I wasn't invited. I wasn't. Me and Howard. By the way, see these new bobbleheads? Let me just review this right here. So this is me. This is Howard. And he created these. Howard had them crafted for Valentine's Day, which even Brett had to admit was knocked it out of the park.
Nailed it. Bullseye. Well done, Howard.
What a great freaking Valentine's present. And they're on these this little stand, and it says "Forever Together," which I don't know if is a threat or if it's a sign of love. I don't know, but these are the men I'm surrounded by. Just so you know,
don't do that.
What I deal with each and every day. I mean, they all produce when they have to, when it's a Hallmark holiday, or when they see you're down, or when they see that you're out, or they see you're tired. They'll show up for you. They will. I mean, they're not bastards or anything. The guys around me, the guys. But when it's time to go on vacation or something like that, no, I'm not really family.
I mean, I invited Howard. He did a good job of not
no, you didn't.
Keeping it under wraps.
Howard's the one that's promoting this conversation. Howard is the one that go, how come we're not going? Why aren't we going? I mean, there's 40 people that are going. How come Brett didn't invite us? Why aren't we invited? And I'm like, oh my God. I don't know. I'll ask him.
It is not 40 people. And by the way, you would be surprised. 2 people called up just yesterday thinking that was Matt Gaetz you were standing next to.
Oh, this here? No, that's Howard. It really does look like him, I have to say. She's prettier than I am, I will say. But Jessica had input into it too, and so when I got it, I was really surprised by this. This was a really good Valentine's Day present. And so I took a photo of it, and I messaged it over to Jessica, who apparently had input into how I looked. And I said, well, she's much prettier than I am. And she is not. She's you. So that's what the new bobbleheads are about. Okay, so that's very. But it does say for together forever, which I didn't know if that was a sign of love or a freaking threat. I just don't know. But anyway, so we won't be here Monday and Tuesday, okay, because Brett is going on a family vacation without parts of his family, me. And yes, this was planned many, many months ago, so it's not a shock. But I pay my staff, even though, we're not going to be, broadcasting that day, because I appreciate them. However, that is not the case for people who work in East Palestine. You see how I did that? Do you see how that works? That's
very smooth.
It's the beauty of me. It's really the beauty of me. But honestly, here's what I would do, because I think about people in this predicament, especially in this part of the country, because I lived in Appalachia, okay? I got in trouble there. I was young there. I was stupid there. And I was protected there as much as a person who's not from there could look forward to getting protection from family and friends that you made down there. So I have fond but, effed up memories of living there. But they are, in the end, fond memories, because there was a whole family took me in, a whole freaking family. Okay, I wish I could talk to the guy I ran away with, but he's dead because he's from there, and that's what happens to young people who stay there. They die. They die from drinking themselves to death, or they die from, now oxycodone, or they die from, roxycodone, or they die from fentanyl. You know what I mean? This is a very specific place for me in my memory bank, in my mind. And I have, like I said, a lot of respect for people who didn't leave, who stay there and try and make it work there for their family, for their kids. So here's my best advice to you. If anybody in this small town, 5,000 people, or anybody listening who knows somebody in this small town is listening, call up your friends and or family or both and tell them, go get a blood draw. Seriously. Go get a blood draw. Go to Quest or Lab or LabCorp, or go to your doctor and get a blood draw. And have medical testing done so that you can feel safer. Because they're not showing up.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Apparently, regulations regarding train safety were changed during the Trump administration. This particular railroad and others lobbied President Trump to dismantle an Obama-era rule that would have required railroads to update their braking systems. And apparently the Obama administration had pushed for it to govern transportation of hazardous materials after about 500,000 barrels of crude were dumped. But ultimately, the Trump administration undid that and said the costs exceeded the benefits.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that Fox and Friends? Yes. They don't know what to do with this story, okay? They don't, because these are their viewers. These people who are in places like East Palestine, who are in places like Scioto County, who are in places like Chillicothe and Xenia, Ohio, these are their viewers. These are their most loyal, sycophantic viewers, and they don't know what to do with this story, okay? Because the rail company didn't even show up last night at a town hall meeting in a high school to address the community that is affected by this this smoke. And God only knows, what is in their creeks, right? Now, they're saying the EPA, the Ohio EPA is there. The U.S. EPA, the federal government, is there. And they are trying to reassure, they're trying to clean up the streams and the creeks that don't feed into the groundwater. And they're trying to tell people it's okay. We're doing air monitoring, and we're doing, ground soil testing, and we're making sure you're safe, which is lovely. Okay. But this is the Biden administration doing all that. Okay. And the corporate interests who lobbied Elaine Chao, the former transportation secretary, Mitch McConnell's lovely bride, they were the ones who actually rescinded a rule that Obama's administration put into place for railroads, including Norfolk Southern. I can't say it fast. I can't even, I don't understand the name of that town. But anyway, They were the ones who lobbied to get this expensive fix to rail car braking systems, to upgrade them, I guess, to pneumatic or electric. I don't know. But to upgrade their braking systems after Obama saw the cause of a giant train derailment that dumped thousands of gallons of poison. He said, okay, what did the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Bureau, say? And they said, it's the braking system. They're not good. And that's why you see these derailments. The whole train, it doesn't stop. The engine, the big cars stop, and then the trains don't stop fast enough or whatever. And so if you upgraded the braking systems, you could maybe, mitigate the kind of damage that we see in these derailments. And so he said, okay, let's do. And the corporate interest didn't want to spend the money, because again, yesterday I was telling you about corporate greed being what it is. It's never enough. It's never enough. Hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars in profit is not enough. It just feeds the greed. It's just like, if we can make $1 billion, we can make 2. If we can make 2, we can make 4. And then when you have 5, what do you do with it? We buy back our stock and we do it all over again. What about investing in your equipment? What about it? Yeah, I mean, like I said, something here breaks. I gotta fix it. I gotta invest in the equipment that broke and fix it, right? or else it's going to sound bad, or it's going to look bad, or something isn't going to fire off the way it's supposed to, or the show's going to fall off the air, or what. And I can't give assurances to people downstream that I'm going to be able to provide something constant for you because I'm not investing in myself. I'm buying back my own stock. I mean, that is what they're doing. It's so sick and sad, and it's preventable. And you have administrations that say it's preventable. Let's prevent it. And then you have administrations that go, oh, you don't want to invest in yourself? No problem. We'll just wipe that, caveat off of your to-do list. We'll just say you don't have to do it. And then they go, and when this happens again, what do? They blame Pete Buttigieg. Or they say they're not spending the infrastructure money correctly. This is not an infrastructure problem. This is an equipment problem with the corporate equipment that Norfolk Southern is responsible for running, responsible for fixing. And this thing about the trainmen, this thing about the 115,000 rail employees who tried to tell us, they tried to warn us, they tried to express it to us, they tried to say, we're exhausted, they're cutting corners, so many people left during the pandemic and found great jobs. They're not coming back because they don't want to work 365 days a week. A year. They don't want to work 7-day weeks. They don't want to work four weeks in a row away from. They need time off. The strike that they started was not even about money. It wasn't about cash. The strike was about manpower and days off. It was about sick days, okay? It was about being able to be with your family. It was about being able to keep a doctor's appointment. That's what the strike was about. And in this way, Biden is responsible. Biden knew that a rail strike would be catastrophic in the midst of a recovery, which we are all seeing, which we are all experiencing. The soft landing was, of this economy after COVID was really, really, it still is, precarious. It's a delicate balancing act. A little inflation versus a massive recession. How do you ride that rope? How do you walk that tightrope? How do you balance those two interests, right? You don't want people to be, thrown into a recession where they're losing their jobs, and you also don't want them to be priced out of a market because of interest rates, meaning they can't buy a house, they can't pay their credit card debts, etc. So it's very delicate, and he felt, rightly, that a rail strike would throw us into a catastrophic economic vortex of pure hell. So when the strike happened, they tried to, this was going on for 2 freaking years. So this is not new. And the ask was always the same, sick days. It was always time off. And they came up with, I think they gave them 1 sick day. I swear to God. The corporate geniuses gave the workers 1 damn sick day. And I think there were 12 unions. If somebody is in one of these unions, if you're one of the 115,000 that work in the rail industry, you'll tell me how many unions there were at the negotiating table. I'm thinking it's 12, could be 13. And 4 of them said, yeah, okay, we'll accept that. 8 of them said, no, we need more time off. We need more sick days. We need days to go to the doctor. We need wellness days. Okay, and the corporation said no. Then it was up to Congress under the National Rail Labor Act, or, one of these 1930 acts that we have, to do with labor and striking. Because this is why, thank God for labor, this is why we have 5-day work weeks. This is why we don't have child labor in this country anymore. This is why we have paid sick leave. This is, okay? And we keep on working for a more perfect union, a more perfect situation. But Congress invoked this National Labor Act and said, we're allowed to step in when it comes to rail, and we're going to say you can't strike. And I'm telling you, I was tweeting my brains out saying, hey, Biden can, through an executive order, give them the sick days. He can order it, and he should have.
3844.
Moments ago, a judge in Fulton County, Georgia, released parts of a report submitted by a special grand jury investigating efforts by Trump and his allies to overturn his 2020 election loss. The report's introduction and conclusion, as well as a section in which grand jurors express concerns that some witnesses may have lied under oath, are now made public. It's just coming out. I've been looking at the copy that we're getting. What do we know about the sections that have been released just seconds ago?
Jose, the truth of the matter is there is not much here. I was able to read through the entire release in that commercial break. And what we have here is largely the grand jury defining their purpose, describing a little bit of how they conducted the work in which they conducted. They said that at any given time, they always had a quorum of 16 jurors, that they interviewed some 75 witnesses, most of them in person and under oath during the course of their work from June to December. And at the conclusion of their work, they voted yay, nay, or abstain on indictments for individuals who were within the purview of what they were assigned to do, which is to look into whether there was any kind of tampering in the election results in Georgia in 2020. And the report does not include their decisions, as we knew it wouldn't, on whether there would be indictments of specific individuals, although it does come to one conclusion that I found notable. The grand jurors say on page 4 of what is a 9-page release in total that in the course of their investigation, they found no evidence of fraud on any significant scale in Georgia.
Right. So, we knew that there would not be information about the names of the people, if any, who this grand jury in Fulton County, Georgia, this is Fani Willis's special purpose grand jury, who can't indict anybody, okay? They can't indict anybody. They could recommend indicting somebody, and then she has to bring it to a regular, not a special purpose. I don't know. It's Georgia. That she has to bring it to a regular grand jury, present them with the recommendations of the special grand jury, and explain to a new grand jury who has the authority to indict people why this grand jury recommended indictment of these people. Now, I can say these people because it is plural. It is plural. There are multiple recommendations for indictments in these 9 pages that were released by they were released by a court. The judge that was in charge of releasing or not releasing or redacting or not redacting names, times, place. What the special purpose grand jury found was a judge named Robert McBurney. He is a Fulton County Superior Court judge. And we saw last week Fani Willis arguing before him, asking him not to make the findings public just yet. That indictments were imminent. That was her explanation to the judge, who agreed with her. Oh, in that case, we will not release the names. But, of course, this grand jury, the special purpose grand jury, doesn't have the ability to actually indict anybody. So releasing people's names, should they recommend indictments, would be a disservice to you're innocent until proven guilty, right? Because these people... And it's plural. There's more than one. There's apparently a roster of people who should and who should not be indicted, and in what relation to the conduct and the aftermath of the big lie conduct of the 2020 general election in Georgia were they attached to. So the judge decided that since, there was no due process, and let me put it this way. This is a real simple way. You know how everybody always says to you, oh, a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich? So this is one of those scenarios, because in a grand jury, there is no defense attorneys for any of the witnesses. There's no defense attorneys present for any allegations that a prosecutor is making to a grand jury regarding a human being, whether that human being in this case be Rudy Giuliani or Donald Trump or Lindsey Graham or, the electors who signed up to be fake electors, 16 people there in that particular, basket. So he said because, they are potential future defendants, and because what was presented to the special grand jury was a one-sided exploration of what happened, and because there are no lawyers in any grand jury scenario, let alone a special grand jury, there are no lawyers advocating for the targets of the investigation, and because those who did testify were not allowed to present evidence or rebut other testimony, he doesn't want the names released. So I can, you know, as an American, as somebody who believes in due process, as somebody who believes in the justice system, not as it is, but the justice system with regard to you're innocent until proven guilty, you know, I believe in that. I agree with him that he should not be releasing the names of people that the grand jury here recommends for indictment that then goes to a grand jury that can indict. However, what's in these 9 pages is something of that will shock MAGA, and that is that this grand jury, who heard from poll workers, investigators, technical experts, the state of Georgia employees and officials, persons who are still claiming that election fraud took place in Georgia. They heard from a whole panoply of perspectives, viewpoints, and they saw all the evidence that allowed them to decide whether or not they believed that there was election fraud in Georgia. The answer to that was clearly no. They did not find any evidence of fraud in Georgia that would have resulted in a different result. They found zero evidence to conclude that there was widespread fraud in Georgia or any amount of fraud in Georgia that would have changed the result or overturned the result in their election in Georgia in 2020. So that was a definite finding. The other thing that is hair-raising, now, you know, MAGA's going to, you know, this was bullcrap or whatever, because they'll never, ever, ever, never deprogram themselves from the cult, okay? I guess you'll get, you know, a person here and a person there that deprograms themselves from the cult, but the larger crowd will never deprogram themselves from the cult of Trump. That's just a thing. 30% of this country, okay? But what this special purpose grand jury also found was that several, and we don't know how many that is. We don't know if it's 2. We don't know if it's 5. We don't know if it's 7. We don't know if it's 9 witnesses who came to offer their testimony. Some of them had to be subpoenaed. You know, she had to go to South Carolina to get, you know, Lindsey Graham, right? I mean, Fani Willis had a really tough road, a really tough road. Here she is, local, Fulton County, Georgia, having to go out of state to compel witnesses who were exerting all kinds of privileges and all kinds of exceptions and all kinds of, you know, objections to having to go to Georgia to testify in front of this special. And she prevailed. She prevailed. And Rudy Giuliani had to testify. Lindsey Graham had to testify. A whole host of people that didn't want to testify were compelled. And now this grand jury finds that a roster of people committed perjury.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
It is.
To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The gutless Norfolk Southern group said, we know that many are rightfully angry and frustrated, but unfortunately, after consulting with community leaders, we have become increasingly concerned about the growing physical threat to our employees and members of the community. So they did not show up. So basically, it was a venting session with nothing being done. Congressman Bill Johnson, who's a Republican, an Air Force officer, for some reason, seems kind of mellow about the whole thing. Doesn't seem, says, you know, we got a seat for you, Pete Buttigieg. That's not going to get things done. You got to start rattling some cages to get some attention down there, because the Biden administration does a great job of not addressing any issue that really affects Americans. Is also looking the other way here. You cannot allow them to do that. They have to be battered in order to speak about China, and now they're ignoring this. I'm also asking what's going on with the whole train system. You got derailments happening at a dizzying rate. Does this have anything to do with the strike and the brokering of the strike that took place against these workers, Will? So for them not to show up last night, these guys got to lawyer up. At the same time, they got to live their lives. For the most part, the way this city profiles, This is a working class area.
Yeah.
Who live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
They don't have money to go stay in a Four Seasons.
Plus, they go there to get answers, and the company doesn't show up, Norfolk Southern, because they're scared. They said that they're worried about their safety.
Right.
And then the people are asking questions. They're screaming out questions if you watch the full video when they're sitting here in the high school auditorium or gymnasium. And Bill Johnson, the congressman, he said, look, the White House is not here. If you have a question, then write it down. Here's my card. Send it to me, and all the questions will be answered. I will contact the White House.
Right. Speaking of the White House, apparently regulations regarding train safety were changed during the Trump administration. This particular railroad and others lobbied President Trump to dismantle an Obama-era rule that would have required railroads to update their braking systems. And apparently the Obama administration had pushed for it to govern transportation of hazardous materials after about 500,000 barrels of crude were dumped. But ultimately, the Trump administration undid that and said the costs exceeded the benefits.
They don't know what to do with this story. They honestly don't, because, you know, this is the result of deregulation that was accomplished by the Trump administration. Elaine Chao being the Secretary of Transportation at the moment, that, you know, that rule was rescinded and was inverted, was taken, you know, back by the Trump administration, something that the Obama administration said we need. And they don't know what to do with this. They want to advocate for the people there. Great. But they don't know how. They don't know how. They say, you know, the congressman is down there, and the congressman is saying, well, the White House isn't here. The White House is there, okay? I want you to know that the EPA administrator is there. He gave a press conference today. That was this morning. So they're in a position over there in New York City at Fox and Friends headquarters on 6th Avenue in Manhattan to know that. They're in a position to know that the EPA administrator from the Biden administration is down there, and that he told the people of East Palestine that the water had been tested and that municipal well water was safe to drink. They're monitoring the air. There are air monitors on light poles. There are air monitors on mailboxes down there. And that is thanks to the Biden administration and a proactive stance on behalf of people who would never vote for him. But he is the president of all the people. The other thing that they left out of their little, rant there, where they finally admitted, because somebody probably put it on the teleprompter, and the idiots read it as is, that it was the Trump administration that rescinded a rule to update the braking systems because of train derailments, that the Trump administration rescinded that rule, saying, oh, it's too expensive, don't do it. You don't have to do it. Don't worry about it. That was the wish of Norfolk Southern and other rail lines, that they didn't want to invest in their own equipment. And they must have just stumbled across that on the teleprompter and didn't even realize what they were telling their audience after they stopped ad-libbing about the Republican congressman who was very mellow about the whole thing and said, but the White House isn't here. The White House is there. MB Mike DeWine, who is the governor of Ohio, a Republican governor of Ohio, not a Trump guy, has his state EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, down there too. So they wandered into the truth this morning, and it shocked me. It shocked me. And I know that it just came across their teleprompter, and they didn't even understand what they were saying. On the Fox and Friends. Gene in Ohio. Hi.
How you doing, Randy?
Good. How you?
Not bad. I live in Pennsylvania, about 28 miles from that crash site.
Near Pittsburgh.
I just want to make a comment. I worked for Norfolk and Southern the last 6-7 years before when they had a merger, and I worked for Conrail and then Penn Central when I first hired. There's two comments. What's funny here? About 2 weeks ago, before this wreck happened, I still involved with the union, and I get my union magazine, and there's a big article in here about how the trains, and I noticed this when I was working, of these inspections the way they're done. We used to have 140 people. Where that train was going was Conway Yards, where I used to work, and it's a big yard. And what they're doing is they're cutting corners on these inspections. We used to have 140 people in my department. I ran into a buddy of mine who's still working. They're down to 64 people. And in this article, what they're doing is they're putting these trains on tracks before they get in the terminal, and they're having the train crews, which they're already overworked, inspecting these trains. And it's our work, and my union wrote an article. They brought this forward to the FRA, and they are looking into it now, but it's a coincidence that this happened. Now, as far as this breathing here, I live like 28 miles away. I noticed some things here. Now they've extended it almost to Pittsburgh, where the fumes, I don't know what's in the air, but people are complaining here now about sore throats, and you could feel something gets in the air. It's not the same. But I want to make this comment. Back when they first took over Norfolk and Southern, I want to say this. I believe when it was Penn Central, a lot of the people that were in management were brought up as in the railroad industry. They may have been a carman, and they became in management. They didn't cut corners as much as what you see now. These people, I give you an example. When I first hired, we were working the track, me and my friend, my coworker, and this truck pulled up. It was a new manager, one of his road foremen, and we were standing there between the cars doing an air brake test. He come over because we were standing there for 10 minutes. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're working a track." And here, this guy didn't even know how to do an air brake test, and he's a road foreman. And what did he work for? He worked for Coca-Cola before. They're hiring people that are bean counters, and they're just told what to do, and he didn't even know what was going on. And here the FRA happened to be out in the yard that day, and he thought we were just loafing. He had no clue about a brake test.
Right.
None.
Yeah.
And their slogan, I mean, since they've been down there, I've seen this problem. It was getting worse and worse. And that's what happened to me. I got hurt. The first thing you do, you get trial papers. They want to fire you. Meanwhile, you bring all this stuff up to them, what's going on. It goes in one ear and out the other. Out here, now our water's going to be contaminated. You know the story. You're calling it right, Randy. But what was funny that my question is, and I've been a Democrat all my life, but Buttigieg should be down there, I believe. What's going on here? And this has been going on. That's what my union magazine's saying, too. So that's why I want to make the comment, because I think now these effects are going to be more widespread, what's happening here.
I thank you for calling me with your experience. I appreciate your expertise in this area. I know that's true. I saw the union, they have a Twitter channel, too. And I saw them talking about how the carmen were laid off, and that they were told that instead of a 3-minute inspection, which to me sounded light, but because I was an airplane,
Right.
But they said instead of a 3-minute inspection, now they're down to like a 30-second inspection.
Yeah, that's what they would do. They'd come and say, "We're too long on the track."
Yeah.
And we were out there. Like I said, this guy didn't know how to do a brake test. Well, you have to walk the brakes, set them up, check the brakes. They didn't even care.
Yeah.
And as far as these tank cars, when you do an inspection, there's a slip you get. It's called a CRB. You write the first car you worked in, the last car, and you may have a train which is all coal cars. Well, there's no hazardous material. That's why the governor from Ohio, when he made that comment the other day, he didn't know about dangerous trains or what's a dangerous train. If you got one tank car.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Rail workers warned us about disaster like this. I heard firsthand months ago about the corporate practice of precision scheduled railroading.
Precision scheduled railroading is shorter staff, longer hours, longer trains, less safety, less maintenance. Do I have all that right?
Oh, you got it all right. I mean, a lot of the derailments that you're seeing on national TV is one of a few things. It's lack of maintenance on the track, where they've cut the track gates too short and they can't get out to fix it, or they've cut the carmens, which is the union that works on the rail cars. So we had one derailment here in Northeast Ohio where a wheel flange was very thin, it picked a switch and derailed the entire train. Luckily, it was full of candle wax and not something highly volatile.
Rail workers tried to strike over this stuff, but were stopped by Congress. A few weeks later, and here we are. Several Norfolk Southern cars of toxic, highly volatile chemicals exploded fantastically in the tiny town of East Palestine, Ohio, 20 miles from where I grew up. So I met Clyde in East Palestine to ask him about it.
It looks like a faulty bearing caused a catastrophic derailment. These railroads are turning profits hand over fist. They've cut their workforce to bare bones, and now they're paying the price for it because the wheels are falling off the train, basically. Carmen were inspecting cars about 3 minutes per car. That's always been the industry standard. Now it's 90 seconds per car.
90 seconds.
Is that because of PSR?
Yes, it's a rush job right now. And these guys are under pressure. I mean, they're working men and women, and, you know, if they don't hurry up and get this car done, they're going to be fired.
Great points. So I went to a press conference with Norfolk Southern and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to ask them about this. What could precision scheduled railroad have to do with the axle failure that caused the derailment?
I have no idea that it's a mechanical issue. Precision scheduled railroading is a management process.
Not a great answer, and that's probably because Norfolk Southern let a worker take the fall rather than a single corporate executive showing up in the town that they polluted to be held accountable. You see, Wall Street owns Norfolk Southern. 74% of shares are owned by a who's who of infamous hedge funds, and this is the business model that they demand. Profit at any cost. And disaster like this is simply a cost of doing business. They cut everything, make all the money, and pay off disasters in tiny flyover towns from the profit. But instead of answering for any of that, they're betting that the corporate media, under the same pressure for extreme profit as railroads, will only ask questions about how much cancer people will get and not why this preventable disaster happened.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, honestly, people who work for a living, people who actually get out there and do stuff like this, keep trucks safe, keep rail safe, try to make sure the tracks connect. Make sure axles aren't flying off of rail cars. Make sure bearings aren't, sparking down the highway. Yeah, the people like that do these jobs, I used to do a job like that. We know exactly when an accident is bound to happen. Can't tell you the exact date, time, place, but we could tell you that whatever they're doing in the scheduling area or whatever they're doing in the cost-cutting area or whatever they're doing in the, hey, 3 minutes to inspect a car is now down to 90 seconds. Move along, get it out there, and name it. Actually have a name for it called precision rail scheduling, precision railroading scheduling. I mean, bite me on this. And of course, they don't give a damn about these little towns. East Palestine, I think the population there is 5,000 people. So what? 3,892 of them get cancer 10 years from now, but nobody will even remember what happened 10 years ago. It's like the burn pits in Iraq, okay? It's the same damn thing. It's the same thing. It's corporate titans that are doing burn pits in Iraq that are now running railroads here in the United States. And, everything is a publicly run company, a publicly purchased company. It's shares, got to move the shares, got to make the shares valuable. So buy back your own stock, increase the value of the shares. I mean, and everybody else can go to hell. Everybody else can die. And 10 years from now, when people are dying from whatever, benzene, if benzene is present in the water, if benzene is present in the air, I hate to tell you this, but these people are so screwed. So screwed. But 10 years from now, who will remember? Who will remember about this Norfolk Southern train derailment? No one. No one will, except the people that are actually getting sick and dying. They'll say, I wonder if and that's why I'm telling you two things. Go get a blood draw now. Get a baseline medical exam when you're okay. You're okay now. You're healthy now. Actually, let them screen your blood for all kinds of crap right now. Let them screen for benzene. They can do that. Let them screen for, toxins. Let them do a toxicity screen. And this time, it isn't going to be looking for fentanyl, okay? This time it's going to be looking for heavy metals. This time it's going to be looking for plastics and precursors for hard plastics, things like that. Go do that. And then the other thing that I wanted to tell you about that I left out Another place that you can go, and they're small, so I don't know, that they can handle like a ton of phone calls or a ton of emails. But for 5,000 people living in this tiny little place, I think they can manage. But it's called River Valley Organizing, rivervalleyorganizing.org. It's a not-for-profit. And the people that work there try to, focus on systemic wrongs, things that are happening institutionally, things that are happening structurally, things that, happen because of a lack of health care equity, things like that. And they also are kind of river watchers, So I would contact rivervalleyorganizing.org and see what they can offer as far as advice for people who are affected by these plumes that are now, headed towards Pittsburgh. Just saying, that's a city. That's a major city. And I know that's a major city because that's where my sister-in-law lives. So, like I said, there are things that you can do now to, and of course, it's going to take, years and years of litigating to get anywhere with a giant corporation, no doubt about it. But you're going to need medical records, and you're going to need them now. You're going to need them today. You're going to need the baseline reports beginning now. So I feel an obligation to the people of this region of the country, as some of you know. Because it is, like I said, I have some fond but effed up memories of that place. And I always said to myself, when I really, really wanted to get out of there, when I really understood I couldn't stay anymore, when I sort of, understood there was nothing I could do at that young age to make anybody's life better, but knew that this was not going to get better at the hands of the people that, were flailing around, because they didn't have information, they didn't have responsive politics, they didn't have people that were advocating for them. I always thought, if I ever get to a situation, if I ever get to a place of any sort of, influence or power, I would help figure stuff out. I would help try to make it a little bit better for Appalachia. And that's all I can think of to do today. That's all I could think of. How lucky I am and how unlucky they are just because of where they were born and their affection for their land, their affection for their culture, their affection for their town, their affection for their friends and their family. And that's what drives them every single day. Now, when I say effed up, I'm talking about these are the things I saw. I could just tell you what I saw. I saw people going to Pentecostal churches on Wednesday night, handling snakes and speaking in tongues, and then coming home, taking some pills, and beating the crap out of their wives. Okay, so that's what I mean when I tell you that I have fond memories of the close-knit nature of towns like these, but I also have realistic memories of how messed up it is. And I always said, I would try. I would never forget. I would reach back if I could and do something. And like I said, the people I knew there, they're all gone. They're all dead. Except for one, who's a Trumper. And he says to me, whenever I communicate with him, he's the older brother of the guy that I ran off with. And he says, Randi, do not talk to me about politics. Anything else, but do not talk to me about politics. So I do it from afar. But can you imagine you run a company where you're too afraid for your own physical safety to go talk to the people in the town?
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Look, I know this bill doesn't have paid sick leave that these rail workers and frankly every worker in America deserves. But that fight isn't over. I didn't commit we were going to stop just because we couldn't get it in this bill that we were going to stop fighting for it. I've supported paid sick leave for a long time. I'm going to continue that fight till we succeed.
All right, so that was Christmas time. That was Joe Biden talking about how Congress had to vote to break the strike for, these rail workers to get paid sick leave. He says he's not done fighting for it, blah, blah, blah. That's when I started tweeting my face off. Okay, I started saying, you can do this by executive order. You could put this into you could put this into practice. You can actually make this happen. And maybe now, Maybe this was the turning point. Maybe this was, enough vinyl chloride or whatever the hell spewed into the air in this little town of, 4,700 people. That's the population of East Palestine. And people don't trust anything now. They don't trust anything. So, the caller is right. The caller who had the expertise in railroading, he understood that Pete Buttigieg does need to go there. He does. So does Biden. They need to get their little butts down there. They need to show up for these people. They need to make a big deal about, showing that the water is clean, showing the test results, showing that they went through, 500 houses, showing that the air quality is okay. They need to show that they are the people who protect the people who didn't vote for them, that they are the president, that he is the transportation secretary for the entire United States of America. Because, look, Donald Trump is the person who rescinded the rule that maybe, we don't know, because it didn't happen with the rule in place. It happened without the rule in place about the braking systems being upgraded. But we don't know, okay? So I'll admit, nobody knows. That's why they call it an accident, okay? But the idea that if this had happened in, Atlanta, or a city that didn't vote for Donald Trump, or in a place that didn't vote for Donald Trump would throw paper towels at you. You know that. You've seen that. You've experienced that. You understand that he was not the president for the entire United States of America. Joe Biden has an opportunity here to clearly demonstrate that he is the president for the entire United States. Even people who didn't vote for him, which I know he believes is his duty. I know that about him. He's said it a million times. Now show up. Just show up. Do it. And Buttigieg does need to show up. And he needs to explain what exactly happened to this rule. And he needs to say exactly what I just said. We don't know if this would have happened with this new rule about the braking systems. We don't know. That's why they call it an accident. Nobody plans for this to happen. But they planned to not protect against what might have happened. They told the company, okay, that is a wholly owned subsidiary of Wall Street, that their business practices were fine, and they didn't need to invest in upgrading their equipment, and they didn't need to give sick days to the workers, and they didn't need to stop this precision railroading technique of theirs that cuts costs to the bone so that they could make obscene profits and buy back their stocks with it. Also, here's another little detail of this story that is really hair-raisingly ugly. This is fugly, okay? Don't know if you heard this or not, and if you did, you probably just heard it in passing, because I haven't heard anybody drill down on this. But the railroad company, Norfolk Southern, oh God, I hate that name. They offered the residents $1,000 per household for their inconvenience. $1,000. If you were offered $1,000 for your inconvenience from a company, if this ever, God forbid, ever presents itself to you, make sure, 1,000% sure, that there isn't a waiver of your rights associated with taking that $1,000. Now, I understand that to some people, $1,000 is the difference between making it this month and not making it this month. I get that. I totally understand it. I've lived like that the majority of my life. I mean, I had 5 good years of money, okay, in my whole life. So I get this. I grew up poor. When I lived in Southern Ohio, I was really dirt poor. I have lived in places with dirt floors, with chicken coops below my feet, okay? I know what it is. But if somebody comes and they offer you $1,000, you're like, oh, I'll take it, especially if you have to leave your house and go to a Motel 6, right? You got to pay that bill. Don't take it if there's a waiver that says you're waiving your rights, okay? Don't do it. Don't take it. I have seen waivers of rights in my lifetime. I have waived my rights. This is really in Florida. The homeowners the homeowners insurance has gone through the roof. Why? Because roofers and lawyers teamed up together. They went to people's houses. They said, "Hey, we could fix your roof, for nothing. just, sign this piece of paper. And what they were signing was a waiver of their right to claim from their insurance company the cost of repairing their roof. Okay, and they gave that away, and they gave it to the roofers and the lawyers. And then the lawyers went to the insurance companies and demanded top dollar for work that wasn't done. And that's why the homeowners' rates have skyrocketed. My homeowner's insurance went up $3,000 a year this year. And it's all because of this kind of business. It's because of this kind of fraud. It's because of this kind of bilking of people, taking away people's rights, right? In order to give your rights to somebody else who's just going to toss them or make money off of them. So do not take money after a terrible explosion like this or some sort of a disaster from any company that has in it an agreement to waive your rights to litigation or to waive your rights to, hold them liable, that you're holding them harmless. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's so disgusting. $1,000 they are. And you know that there were waivers that they had to sign in order to. And sometimes it's just the back of the check. When you sign the back of the check, you're waiving your rights. Sometimes it is. This is so vile, okay? And that's why there's tension in the town on, last night when they had to. But imagine you as a decent person. And, some of you run businesses. Some of you own small businesses. There's no such thing as a small business if it's your business. I'm just saying. But some of you run your own business. Can you imagine if you were running a business that you were running it so haphazardly and so dangerously and so carelessly in order to cut corners that if, God forbid, something happened in your neighborhood or in your community where your business is, you would be too afraid to show up and answer questions of people that may have been hurt by your business practices. Just imagine. And that is what we're looking at here. We're looking at a corporate practice of a really seriously profitable company. I mean, billions in profits, not revenue, profits, billions. And they say that they're afraid of the people in the community doing violence to them. This is why they didn't show up last night. This is being portrayed on Fox News and Fox and Friends and blah, blah, as they were afraid for their safety, which, leaves room for thinking, oh, maybe they were afraid of the air. No. They were afraid of the people getting physical with them because they know what they did.
To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
On to Florida.
The state of Florida is where woke goes to die.
This course on Black history, what's one of the lessons about? Queer theory. Now, who would say that an important part of Black history is queer theory? That is somebody pushing an agenda on our kids.
You mean to tell me that the history of those people isn't important? You're saying that the history of America isn't important? Because it's not really Black history, it's the history of America. Honestly, you don't know what he's talking about.
Can you imagine someone saying that European studies or Western civilizations has no inherent value whatsoever?
We have teachers who are not able to teach the curriculum that they want because they disagree with Ron DeSantis and his view of the world. That is limiting free speech.
They are trying to shield students from the truth about history.
We are nothing without our history, which is exactly why conservatives are going after public education in America, to erase, dismantle, and rewrite the true account of our past. What happened on this soil, the oppression that was fought and overcome, and which shaped who we are and the very moment we are in. History is vital, as is knowledge. It's why education is so often ground zero in the U.S. culture wars, and why Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' apparent White House ambition strikes at the heart of the American classroom.
We have to stop calling this a culture war because it's not a culture war, okay? A culture war, it doesn't exist here. We have a criminalization of books. Okay, you have a governor who is having certain books that, one person or two people are deeming inappropriate for classrooms, to have a felony. A felony. That is not a cultural divide. That's not a cultural conflict. That is a felon. That is criminalizing certain ideas, and that is fascism. Also, the corporate titans are all part of it. You understand that. Oligarchy, they all rely on, people being brainwashed. They all rely on a dearth of, history, or teaching history in a way that leaves out the labor movement, or teaching history in a way that leaves out slave labor. It's all connected, and it's all designed to keep us, in bondage, basically, to now the corporate titans. It used to be the ag industry. It used to be, big plantations. And now it's just big corporations. It's the Fortune 500. It's whatever they want, whatever they can use, whatever they can do, even signing away your rights, to health care after they poison you or whatever. It's all part of the same exact MO. And so, of course, the first thing that they go after is history, right? They want to, tell you a version of history that benefits them. And who are they? They're the elite. That's who they are. And they don't want you to know about the labor movement. They don't want you to know about, free labor. They don't want you to know about child labor. They don't want you to know about LGBT rights. They don't want you to know about Black history, which is American history, or migrant history, which is an American history. And we have a governor who is willing to actually feed into white supremacist wet dream that he is of the mind that if he has to go to Texas to find some migrants, because Florida doesn't really have a giant problem. So if he has to go to Texas to find some Venezuelans, definitely not Cubans, don't let them be Cubans. They vote for Republicans. But if I can go to Texas and pick up some Venezuelans from Greg Abbott, who's like-minded, then I can use taxpayer money and send them to Martha's Vineyard to make some sort of a weird fascist statement about how I'm willing to, criminalize Venezuelans. If I'm willing to go to South Miami and find a couple of Black voters who legitimately believed that since we had Amendment 4 in this here state saying that felons had their right to vote restored, with some exceptions, but they didn't understand that they were the exception, okay? So they voted. Now, if he actually goes and films their arrest, which, by the way, have been thrown out of court, if he goes and films it and actually has a press briefing with law enforcement looking all tough and fashy behind him, even though he knows that his voters in the villages in Ocala, Florida, in the middle of this state, literally voted twice, repeatedly, like many people, like more than 5 people, voted twice in the villages for Donald Trump. And he knows that, but if he can go get some Black faces on a videotape and show that they're the felons, A, B, they're the ones that tried to commit voter fraud, and I'm not tolerating that from them, and I put it on the TV, well, then I could propel myself into, your next autocrat, your next fascist dictator. I can actually make myself appealing to white supremacists. And that is what he's doing with this education thing. But that's why education, that's why they always go for it. And he's taken on Disney too, because, Disney happens to, have no policy against hiring gay kids. They have no. And so now he's going to take over Disney's land, and he's going to make himself the board. I mean, this is all about punishing corporations that don't play ball with you and elevating corporations that do, making videos that show how cruel you can be, because cruelty is the point of this party at this point, and calling it a culture war. There's no culture war. A culture war is a conflict of values. I don't think we have a conflict of values, okay? I think everyone in this country who's, at all decent, has any sense of decency, would just like to live in peace, okay? would just like to live in a place where things are a little fairer and a little more peaceful than they are now. I don't think that they think that they're at war. But DeSantis is making it a felony to have books. Now, I got news for you. The idea that he's doing this and saying, you know, look, here's what it says about why he doesn't want it taught, okay? I'll give you his reason. He doesn't want white kids to feel guilt or anguish or be in distress while learning history. History doesn't make children feel guilty. Racism makes children feel guilty. Racism makes people uncomfortable. Learning about racism doesn't make people uncomfortable. That's a fact. What he's trying to do is make certain groups of people feel less than. Those groups of people, they can feel anguish. They can feel distress. They can feel left out. They can, as long as the dominant group says so.
To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
DeSantis has staked his political future on a bid to block an advanced placement course in African American studies, saying it lacks educational value. It's that fight, which DeSantis started, that has brought protesters, clergy, political and civil rights leaders to Tallahassee, to the shadow of the old Capitol building that once served as Florida's seat of Confederate secession. And it could prove to be his first big political mistake, fighting to kill wokeness only to wake up thousands in his state to fight back. Their message to the governor: keep your political agenda out of our schools.
So how can you stand and try to rewrite history for a race of individuals that you are not even a part of?
Really, you just don't want to talk about the tough parts of history? I mean, that's cowardice. History is a beautiful, ugly story, and you got to embrace all of it.
Black history does not make anybody uncomfortable. Racism makes people uncomfortable. Injustice makes people uncomfortable.
Everybody needs to learn. Like, we need to represent those people who have been mistreated throughout history, because African American history is America's history.
You should have left us alone. Now you have brought us all together. If you would study history, Governor, you would have known to mess with us in education always ends to your defeat. I heard you say that Florida is the state where woke comes to die. We came to tell you, Governor, you just resurrected woke with more power than it has ever had. Thank you for trying to kill it, because now God is going to resurrect it.
I think he screwed up. I think he did. I think DeSantis screwed up really, really badly. People are just so offended at making education, certain education, criminal. They're just so offended because everybody understands, you know, what it is to learn, history is to unlock, ideas and concepts and to prevent, from the repetition of a bad history. That's all it's about. And these concepts that he's so afraid of are concepts that don't have anything to do with personal racism. They don't have anything to do with, your child was the great-great-grandson of an enslaver. That is not what this is about. That is not what this history is about. That is not what they're going to, try to teach in, African-American history class, AP or any other. You know what? This is about structures. This is about structural racism. This isn't about personal racism. This is about things like redlining. This is about things like voting while black. Okay, this is about shipping migrants from Texas to Martha's Vineyard on Florida's taxpayer dime in order to be political about immigration. Okay, this is about structures. It's not about people. It's not about a person is going to feel guilty about their heritage. Several centuries later. No, that is not what this is. This is the authors that he's trying to ban have written about very specific concepts, very specific histories, very specific things like redlining and banking. Redlining and banking that was designed as a structural inhibition to, buying homes to create black wealth. I mean, the idea that, Black Wall Street was burnt down is something that, wouldn't make me feel bad when I learned about it. I didn't feel bad. I didn't say, oh, my God, I'm white and I was part. No, I said, oh, my God. Oh, my God, the structures in this country that enabled people to, take wealth away have got to be defeated. Certain groups are at an intersection of multiple oppressions. For example, if somebody is a black woman, she is at the intersection of two discriminatory oppressions, like she's black, but she's also a woman. So it's race and gender. Now add to it that she's gay. So now she's being discriminated against for three things that she has no control over: her gender, her race, and her sexual orientation. Okay, what if she is a gay, black, female Muslim? You see, that's what intersectionality is. Rhonda in Erie explained it really well the other day so that even I could understand it. Hopefully you can too. But that is what Kimberly Crenshaw, who coined the term intersectionality, was trying to explain as a concept of how a person can end up in the crosshairs, if you will, of several discriminatory attitudes that might be codified in our institutions. For instance, women are losing their rights to make medical decisions. For instance, Donald Trump stood on a stage and said he was going to do a Muslim ban. For instance, gay marriage is under attack. We had to actually codify that into law. Interracial marriage is under attack. We had to codify that into law. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with a person. It has to do with structures. And the structures create outcomes. And if you don't like certain persisting structures and practices that create terrible outcomes, then you need to learn these concepts so that you don't recreate them going forward. And that's what this particular history course is trying to express. It's not pointing its finger at anybody and saying, you need to feel guilty. You need to feel anguish. No, it's looking at corporate, for the most part, structures and government structures that create very dismal outcomes for the people who are targeted by them. So is it going to be okay with you that a small black child right now going to school who maybe is living, she was born into poverty, and she's going to feel that her parents and her grandparents are responsible for their own impoverished position relative to white children? Why wouldn't you want to explain to the whole class that there are structures that have been set up in this country, and they're perpetuated in some parts of this country, that consistently and persistently create these outcomes? And that it's not through, some a void in genetics. It's not through some, a predetermined destiny that people end up in these positions. That it's structurally designed to produce bad outcomes over and over and over and over again by whoever is the dominant racial group. That's what this is. Now, I will say in Germany, in Germany, they do teach the Nazi past. They teach what it is. They teach how it happened. They teach about propaganda. They teach about the final solution. They teach about the war. And, you know, I'm sure it makes some German children, you know, feel terrible, but I'm sure it also makes Germany one of the most stable democracies on this planet because they know what the signs are, because they know what the little, crumbs, the breadcrumbs, you know, when they're put out one after the other, where they lead. And so they're on their guard against that, right? But obviously it could cause anguish and guilt in some German children, and that is probably why there are German white supremacists who don't want their children to hear the true Nazi past. But they do teach it to prevent anything, even remotely associated with that, from ever getting root, from ever gaining ground in Germany. They do. They don't ban the idea of what happened. That's indoctrination. Indoctrination is when you ban ideas. When you tell somebody that your way of doing things is the only way of doing things. You are indoctrinating them. The free flow of ideas does not indoctrinate people into one way of thinking. The banning of ideas indoctrinates people into one way of thinking. The right wing in Florida and the white supremacist portion of our country is celebrating the banning of information and concepts. They are celebrating the banning of books. And they are saying, oh, it's freedom from indoctrination. Banning ideas is indoctrination. That is as Orwellian a concept as you could get when it comes to education. Informed decision-making creates good policy. It applies across the board.